Joining me now, Arshpreet Khadia. He is the spokesperson of the Congress. Kapil, Sankhla, senior advocate of the Apex Court. Ratan Sharda is an RSS researcher. Maulana Masood Kazmi is a Muslim scholar. And we also have Nirmal Kaur, former IPS officer, someone who signed that open letter supporting Nupur Sharma. Kapil, Sankhla, first oral observations which were quoted repeatedly by all those who were opposing Nupur Sharma, and then this order which is a reprieve. When those observations were made, one concern that was raised was that has she been held guilty without trial, and had her case been prejudged and prejudiced, then how do you read today's order?
But there are two important things. One, it is very, it's very exciting and interesting to have an open court and everybody getting to hear what the court is saying, what the counsels are saying, what's happening in court. But to quote something out of context when there is a verbal argument or discussion going on is a dangerous trend. Now what happens is a disjointed statement can cause a ruckus, which is exactly what had happened. And the Honorable Supreme Court today very rightly clarified that issue itself. Quoting it to be a misunderstanding or a misquoting, and I'm paraphrasing it, and saying that to that extent we are clarifying that we do not want your client to run here and there. The responsibility is both ways. And when I say this, it basically means that we, people who are there inside the court, who are basically messaging, tweeting, etc., and us when we are understanding it. So either we understand the entire gamut of what was argued. And if you're taking a disjointed statement, it can actually cause a lot of confusion, whatever the court stated that day. I am glad that this order came that clarifies the issue, because dehorse whatever Ms. Sharma would have said. I don't think it would merit the kind of threats that she's getting, that she will be raped, molested, murdered, beheaded, and the Honorable Supreme Court rightly protected a citizen of India. As I said, whatever she said, rightly or wrongly, is a matter of trial or to be taken later.
But Kapil, Sankhla,
whether it was taken out of
was
context,
it because of the
way?
subsequent events, which included Salman Chishti's video and several others? Do you think that was, and the nature of threats, which increased, in the last few weeks, and the nature of, again, the FIRs, the lookout notices, all that added to the verdict today?
See, 10 FIRs have already been lodged that were pointed out today. 3-4 had been added on since July 1. So you can understand that the threat is increasing. In West Bengal, there's a lookout notice. There is a Chishti fellow who has made a video asking that she be murdered, beheaded. There have been other cases as well. So all of those did weigh very heavy on the Honorable Supreme Court, because, just to explain this very importantly, Article 32 protects your fundamental rights before the Honorable Supreme Court, but the powers of the Honorable Supreme Court are very limited, because they are only limited to the fundamental rights and cannot go beyond it. But the powers of the High Court are much larger, and this is what the Honorable Supreme Court had observed in July 1st. The powers of the Honorable High Court under 482 are inherent to do substantive justice. Under Article 226, which is again the power of writ, which protects your fundamental rights, also includes the right to do substantive justice, and Article 227, which is power of superintendence of the High Court over all the courts and tribunals below it. So the powers of the High Court are much larger as more than Supreme Court when it comes to protection of a person to do substantive justice. The Honorable Supreme Court in July 1st has stated that, there are FIRs, go there. Do not come to us. But now it realized, with the ever increasing cases and FIRs, it merits that all of them be clubbed at one place, and substantive justice is done by the Honorable High Court.
Yes. So
therefore it issued notices to 8-10 different states.
Yes, substantive justice. And yes, I am looking at the list of FIRs that is part of the Supreme Court's order. Arshpreet Khadia, it is also here of a citizen's right, and many are seeing this, that those observations that were made were against judicial ethos. But again, at the same time, it is not for the first time that court has made oral observations. But the consequences that are entailed by observations of this nature, they aren't really binding on subordinate courts if they do not really form part of an order.
See, number one, For the people saying it was against the judicial ethos, number one, are they judge, jury, or executioner that they get to decide? Who are they? This is the Honorable Supreme Court that we are talking about. Number two, the interim relief, which is basically temporary for the people who do not understand law. This is temporary, and the basis is not merit or the analysis of the facts and circumstances of the case. The reason behind the relief is that she had a threat to her life, and in order to safeguard her, the Honorable Supreme Court has granted interim relief that we'll seek the status report from the states if they are willing to club multiple FIRs. Now the question here is, can there be multiple FIRs? The answer to that is yes, 100%, crystal clear, because what is, whatever Nupur Sharma said could be hurting your religious sentiments, but for me, it could be breaching the peace of my state and provoking. So there can be multiple FIRs, there can be different offenses, because it's the SHO that registers the FIR, it's the complainant that decides which right of his has been, violated, or he feels is an offense. Number two, Justice Suryakant was on that bench as well that had passed the remarks.
Yes, and it is
and
the
was
same
on this
bench
as well.
that gave her relief today.
Yes, yes. But I hope the BJP spokesperson can tell us this, because Nupur Sharma would also be represented. Why did you withdraw it in the first place if you had to come again in order to revive that same, writ? Why did you have to withdraw it in the first place? You wasted the time of the court. You wasted your own time.
Ratan Sharma,
and let's not forget one
Yes, the
thing,
oral observations had led to a lot of political churning. There were a lot of statements, counter statements that came from the opposition largely, not as much from the BJP. And Nirmal Kaul and others had also written an open letter that there should be a rethink on the oral observations. Then how do you view the developments of the court today? She hasn't really got that relief that she had petitioned, in which she wanted those observations to be withdrawn.
Exactly.
The
observations will stay intact. They are the observations of the Supreme Court. But what is to be noticed here
Arshpreet,
is that Nupur Sharma
that's a question to Ratan Sharda, please. Yes.
See, first of all, I would actually feel good about the courts that they have realized what kind of comments are made, and resulted in exploiting the comments by the critics of Nupur Sharma also, the people who instigated all the violence, to use those observations. So whether they're part of order or not is immaterial, but they were used. She was under threat at that time also. It is not that threats have come now. Threats were there also at that time, but still the observations were really very adverse. That is point one. So they needed to anyway come out of it, and I think that's a good gesture, and it's very gentlemanly on the part of lawyer or Nupur Sharma not to press on the point too much. So let's say from here on we will see more objective observations and not very highly, kind of observations which I should not name. And secondly, we keep on saying that these are she created all the raktas, but we always forget that there are people on the debate who actually instigated. There was a person who actually picked up a part of the debate and created ruckus around the world by using only a partial clip, and then translated in various languages and created ruckus across the world. So that was more serious crime than the heat of the moment comment.
Not really, Ratan Sharda. Not really, Ratan Sharda, because no matter what the nature of instigation, as you allege, nobody can make the comments that she did. She cannot get away with the comments that she did. So she should have apologized, which she did. But again, Mr. Sharda, with all due respect to you, I do not see that clipping or whatever you may argue and her statement being justified the way you're doing, sir.
I am not justifying, actually asserting that what she said has been said by many scholars time and again. They are part of the hadith. So we should not create the ruckus around it. There was heated debate. There was the way she spoke or the heat of the moment was different. But to claim that she made a hateful comment, etc., that surpasses all the comments that was made against Gyanvapi by none of the secular crowd, none of the so-called secular